And now it is time for the Phoenix to fly off. See you after the strike and... You know, I haven't done a movie review for this channel yet. Perhaps that'll be a good way to celebrate when the execs finally come to their senses and give the animators a fair contract. Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll review a movie. I'm up for just about anything. I didn't mean that literally. I didn't mean I'd review something like... You're thinking about it already, aren't you? Oh no. Oh, no. Don't do this to me. In the name of Hades, do not do this to me. Please, for God's sake, do not make me review something out of the pits of hell like that movie! Oh, for f***'s sake. The Phoenix has landed, themself a new design more reflective of their 2025 self. What incredible smell I've discovered! A steaming turd from Lucasfilm! What can I say about George Lucas that hasn't already been said? This guy is a pop culture legend, and I'm not one to use that term lightly. From single-handedly catapulting the once maligned as nerd stuff genre of science fiction to mainstream popularity with Star Wars, to founding one of the most influential companies in the video game medium, Lucas's influence on the arts, particularly the mediums that involve moving pictures, haha, you're funny, is the kind most artists can only dream of having, with his work being adapted, referenced, and parodied in everything from film to television to literature, by everything from humans to ponies to thumbs.
I am Ooby-Dooba-Nooby.
What's your middle name?
Scooby-Dooby.
Ooby-Doob Scooby-Dooby-Banooby?
But of course, as those who strike it rich often do, Lucas let the fame and fortune he achieved go to his head, especially with Star Wars, which as early as 1978, he was making questionable decisions with to say the least, including the infamous holiday special that's essentially a variety show with a Star Wars skin. And Harvey Korman in blackface!
Come on, faster all together now, cooking can be fun! Stir, whip, stir, whip, stir, wah!
Misuse of the Star Wars brand aside, the variety show as a genre died for good reason. Let's treat it like lawn darts and corporal punishment as something we don't bring outside the 1970s. And of course, let's not forget about the special editions, which Lucas has pushed to replace the original unedited versions to the point where they've become hard to find without resorting to morally correct means, and the prequel trilogy, which consists of the one that sucks the most, the one that sucks the worst, and the good one. It's quite telling that Lucas had lost his touch with Star Wars by this point, and the most acclaimed entries from this era of the franchise are Tartakovsky's miniseries and the LEGO video game adaptations. And the C-suite people at Disney must have thought that too, because, as we all know already, the Mouse House would end up buying Star Wars, along with the entirety of Lucasfilm, in 2012, getting work on a sequel trilogy quickly after. There's always a bigger fish though, in this case a bigger turd, for with their purchase, Disney was now contractually obligated to release a project Lucas had in the making for quite some time, the sheer cringe fest we know today as Strange Magic. Released in the January dumping ground of 2015, we'll come back to this in a minute, Strange Magic is part fantasy adventure, part jukebox musical, all disgusting, and was directed by Gary Rydstrom, who is better known as a sound designer, in fact he's quite a legend in the field, but also has a few other directing credits to his name, namely the English dubs of several Studio Ghibli films including The Wind Rises. Going off the high-quality animation, voice-casted names such as Alan Cumming, Alfred Molina, and Kristen Chenoweth, you're probably looking at this movie and think it doesn't smell bad on the outside. Well, every word of what you just thought was wrong. This is a jukebox musical from George Lucas. You know what he approved for a theme song for one of his cartoons?
Wait on the
God, everyone from hell! That. Anyways, little is known about the production of Strange Magic, unsurprising considering how relatively obscure it is. But what is known is that Lucas came up with the idea of the film sometime around 2000, envisioning it as a film for his daughters. Whereas Star Wars was a story for boys, Strange Magic was to be a story for girls. Because I guess in his mind, girls don't like sci-fi adventures with robots and lightsabers, they like fantasies with fairies that sing and dance. In which case he has as low of opinion of females as Doug Walker.
This pointless Star Wars style scroll. Yeah, because that's what girls watching this show are really into. Star Wars! They go so hand in hand, I'm surprised Lucas didn't release a more feminine version with Serena doing Darth Vader.
Hey, newsflash Lucas, if you think girls can't like sci-fi or action movies or boys can't like romance or musicals, you're not only sexist, you're an idiot. Same if you think a story can only be enjoyed by the gender of the protagonist. May I remind you that the Powerpuff Girls was created by a man, Craig McCracken, or that Thomas and Friends was brought to television by a woman, Britt Allcroft? A good piece of media is one that anyone can enjoy, regardless of the genre or the genders of the leads. We can assume Strange Magic was pretty deep in production by the time Disney bought Lucasfilm, otherwise the movie probably would have been scrapped. But I'll bet anything, even the execs at Disney realized how bad this movie was, and or they didn't want it getting in the way of the build-up to Force Awakens, because they proceeded to do everything in their power to bury the film, announcing it and dropping its trailer just 2 months before its release, putting it out in that infamous January death slot, and even releasing the film under their nearly dead Touchstone Pictures label, probably so that nobody would think of it as a Disney movie. Which, aside from it being common knowledge that Touchstone was just Disney's pseudonym for releasing movies for older audiences, yeah, not even a blind person would fall for that disguise. Strange Magic ended up tanking both critically and financially upon release, with a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 25 on Metacritic, and grossing only $13.6 million USD during its theatrical run. Yes, that's worldwide. The exact budget of this film is unknown, but it's estimated at 70 to 100 million USD, and that's probably for just the production. Although given how little promotion this movie got, I'd assume the marketing didn't add much more to that. Regardless, it was a flop on all fronts, and one Disney, being richer than all but 54 of the world's countries, behind Greece and ahead of Algeria, could shake off pretty easily. And believe me, I don't blame them for sabotaging this one. Because while Phantom Menace, Howard the Duck, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull may suck more, as in they're more popular to hate on, Strange Magic sucks the worst of anything George Lucas has put his name on. What, you still think I'm joking about how bad this movie is? Well, laugh it up, fuzzball. The dark side of Lucas's filmography is a pathway to much cringe and disgust some consider to be unnatural. And this movie is cringe and disgusting like Jabba the Hutt's colonoscopy video. Or at least what I'd imagine it looked like. So let's beam down and leave this movie marooned for all eternity in the center of a dead planet.
That's Star Trek.
Yes, I know, Gilda. Go along with the joke, please. The film opens with exposition about the two countries in the story, the Fairy Kingdom and the Dark Forest, or more accurately, the border between them.
Primroses bloom between light and shadow. They are used to make love potion.
Wow, even the Blue Sky logo wants no part in this love potion thing. Not that I blame it. We are then introduced to the hero of this story, the fairy princess Marianne, voiced by Evan Rachel Wood, as she prepares for her wedding day while singing Elvis Presley's Can't Help Falling in Love.
Wise men say, only fools rush in.
2 minutes. Not even 2 minutes in, and already we have this movie telling us that it thinks that a song by a guy who is well documented to have dated girls as young as 14 is romantic. Blech! Talk about a shitty first impression! Anyways, during her musical number, Marianne stumbles into the Dark Forest, where we get our introduction to the Bog King, voiced by Alan Cumming. Now the Bog King here, he has ordered his goblin cronies to destroy the primroses on the border, for he hates anything having to do with love.
It weakens. It rots. It destroys order. And without order, what is left? Chaos.
Gee, I wonder what his character arc is gonna be, and if its execution is gonna be fraught with horrible implications. I wonder. Oh, and Bog's most prominent cronies are these two comic reliefs, Stuff and Thang. You're probably thinking, since I bring them up, that they're yet another Dumb Muscle and Lori XB. Well, they're not. They're both just bumbling idiots who get annoying fast. Bog does have what I think is supposed to be a Lori XB and what I know is a Dumb Muscle as part of his army, though. The latter is a guy named Brutus, who's used for a nudity joke later in the film, which also appears in the trailer, that's neither funny nor makes sense, given that the goblins are a naturalist club, hehehe. Anyways, Marianne's fiancé is a guy named Roland, voiced by Sam Palladio doing an American accent.
Were you in the Dark Forest?
No, maybe.
You could have been killed.
No, don't look.
Or worse, seriously disfigured.
Hey.
An American accent that sounds like he'd never actually heard one before and was going off of someone's description of what an American accent sounds like. Roland shares a faux romantic exchange with Marianne that reminds me this is the I Don't Like Sand Guy story, and after flying off, even joins in our musical number as it also incorporates Beyonce's Crazy in Love.
Looking so crazy got me looking so crazy in love.
Now before I get much further, let me bring up an aspect of this film that commonly comes up in its critiques: the animation. Despite how negatively received Strange Magic is, one thing people often say about it is that at least the animation looks nice. Some even cite it as the film's lone redeeming quality. Yeah, no, I don't agree. I mean, yeah, sure, it looks nice. The textures are detailed, the movements are fluid, the lighting is well rendered. You can tell that Lucasfilm had a talented team of animators and some powerful rendering software to make this film look very impressive, to the level of the highest budget offerings from Pixar and DreamWorks. The problem here goes all the way down to the designs, because on that level, Strange Magic is conceptually weak. In terms of the settings, the Fairy Kingdom is a forest, and the Dark Forest is exactly what it says on the tin. There's hardly anything distinctive about either of them. They're basically just two forests, one of which is darker than the other. And the other ideas on display aren't much more creative either. They feel like the result of Bill Green playing the people-watching game. You know, when he's coming up with comically bland ideas.
His house has 4... No, that's ridiculous. 3 windows.
How about more details? What color's the house?
Is it rainbow?
It's white.
Oh.
All right, that's enough.
That's how creative this movie feels. What are the non-humanoid inhabitants of this world like? The regular fauna like squirrels, lizards, and ladybugs that seem giant next to the tiny humanoids. What are the fairy soldiers like? They wear armor made out of leaves and ride the forest animals as their steed. What does the Bog King's lair look like? It is a giant skull's residence just like it's the goddamn Wily Castle. The most original idea this movie has is making the Sugar Plum Fairy blue. And even then, the movie feels the need to go out of its way to tell us that this is a subversion of expectations.
Are you the Sugar Plum Fairy? I expected something more purple.
Hey, movie, tip. Part of subverting a trope or cliche, just as big if not bigger than the subversion itself, is that you don't tell the audience that it's a subversion! If you have to explain the subversion, there is no subversion! Although this does give me a segue into talking about the character designs, which are straight out of the Uncanny Valley. They go for a realistic but slightly stylized approach here in the vein of Shrek. Unfortunately, the execution left these characters looking more like they came from a 2000s Zemeckis movie. The Dark Forest may be the home of the goblins, but with the way the citizens of the Fairy Kingdom look, you'd be forgiven for thinking everyone in this whole damn movie was a goblin! Also not doing the visuals any favors is that the editing can also get pretty tacky. Just in the opening musical number, there are a few split screenshots, which, editing tip, unless you're doing something with heavy stylization like the Spider-Verse movies, you should avoid doing as much as possible. It's best to get everything you want the audience to see in one shot. But this is only the beginning of the movie's bizarre editing choices. When Marianne enters the Dark Forest at the 49-minute mark of the film, we transition to the next scene by having the night sky of the previous scene linger a bit on the love potion. And 66 minutes in, there's a weird match dissolve from the Sugar Plum Fairy's prison to the moon. Not that I have a problem with a transition like this, in fact I love match dissolves when they're done well. But this one has Sugar Plum's silhouette linger on the moon for a few seconds. Do they have to let the previous scenes linger? Do they have to? Do they have to? Do they have to let them linger? Because this transition looks like the moon has a dick! You can give a turd all the polishing you want, paint it gold and decorate it with jewels. It won't change the fact that it's a turd. And no amount of skill from the animators or power from the rendering software can change the fact that, on a conceptual level, the design of Strange Magic just sucks. The look may be the quality of Pixar or DreamWorks movie, but the concepts are about as bland and unoriginal as fantasy can get, with ugly looking characters and tacky editing dragging it down further. Back to the story, it turns out Roland is a dirty cheater, and in her sadness, Marianne goes to her bedroom to butcher Bacharach and David's I'll Never Fall in Love Again.
What do you get when you kiss a boy? You get enough germs to catch a fever, then straight away he'll up and leave ya.
Oh come on, the original song managed to rhyme pneumonia with phonia! A quite clever rhyme with how it incorporates a casual manner of speaking. And you take your artistic liberties to put in that cheated rhyme? So the song picks up tempo and goes from a depressing number of heartache to a rock anthem about how she's a fierce, independent, tomboyish woman who's through with love and won't let romance hold her back no more. Gee, I wonder what's gonna happen by the end of the film. Do I ever wonder? Anyways, Marianne has an annoying younger sister named Dawn, who herself has an even more annoying friend named Sunny.
Spring ball.
Yeah?
My first dance.
I made it so when the music starts, you'll accidentally bump into Hadrian.
And surprise, surprise, they're here to file another great song, Bob Marley's Three Little Birds. Is this hate, is this hate, is this hate, is this hate that I'm feeling? Now I won't play the audio of this next part because I don't want the copyright bots after my ass, but this number is interrupted by a lizard that chases after Sunny, and Marianne fends off as Hart's Barracuda plays in the background. I swear, whoever was in charge of the needle drops in this movie chose that song just because this movie's about love, and hearts are the symbol of love. So after that encounter, the trio go to the spring ball, where we're introduced to another one of this movie's loathsome cast, Marianne and Don's father the Fairy King, voiced by Alfred Molina. I hate the Fairy King. He is awful. He is the idiocy of post-movie Patrick Star and the bigotry of a Trump supporter rolled into one character. Every scene in which he appears gives me a new reason to hate him, and I do mean every scene. Get a load of this gem of a line, that he spends not even 20 seconds from the first frame in which he appears.
I just want to see the happy Marianne I used to know. Before the Roland misunderstanding.
Misunderstanding my ass. He cheated on Marianne with another woman. What the f*** is there to misunderstand? Speaking of Roland, guess who's here to serenade Marianne with the obvious Frankie Valli song?
Come on, Marianne. Come on, Marianne.
And in case you're wondering, no, this movie doesn't also have Dawn go away for the other daughter. This movie had the less bad sense to only ruin one Frankie Valli song. But boy does it ever ruin it, by combining it with a song that was already shit to begin with.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Stand a little taller.
I hate this song!
Let me just go off on a tangent for a bit to be a zoomer complaining like a boomer. I for the most part don't like music from the 2010s. It's largely a bunch of overproduced pop music with ugly sounding synths and obvious auto-tune. And I also never cared for that American Idol auditory universe of music. It's on this song, though, that the two converge for one of the worst empowerment anthems to become a 21st century pop staple. It's built around a repetitive synth beat with Kelly Clarkson belting out obvious autotune as she spreads a message created from the same toxic mentality as "Get comfortable with being uncomfortable." What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Being an autistic person who went their entire childhood without finding a friend has left me a bitter and lonely adult who hardly trusts anyone. And I have recurring nightmares about high school from getting held back in my senior year. That's not exactly getting stronger now, is it? So you can imagine how I feel about this song I hate for its overproduction and toxic message, being a musical number combined with a song I do like.
Buttercup.
No! You do not get to drag the foundations down with you! And you especially do not get to subject us to uvulas when your characters look this uncanny! So Marianne kicks Roland out of the ballroom, where he is soon joined by Sunny, and the two talk about how a love potion could get the girls of their dreams to fall in love with them.
I wish there was a way to make her fall in love with me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, maybe something like a love potion.
Like a love potion.
Great idea.
Okay, I can understand Roland being the one to bring this up since love potions are inherently a moral idea, and he's pretty well established as a villain by this point. But Sunny's been presented as someone we're supposed to root for. Surely they're not gonna...
All I gotta do is find a primrose flower, get to the castle where I find the sugar plum fairy, she'll make her love potion.
One of our heroes, ladies, gentlemen, and all in between. A guy who wants to Bill Cosby his way into romance. God, this movie is so fucking disgusting. Hey, sometimes it needs to be uncensored. Deal with it. Sunny finds the one primrose petal the goblins haven't gotten to, and makes his way into the dark forest, alluring the Bog King's mushrooms that communicate via telephone game to his presence, as the Doors' People Are Strange plays in the background. Okay, let's count so far. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I forgot to say Whitney Houston's I Wanna Dance With Somebody has been featured too. 9! 9 songs that this movie has featured so far, and we're only at the 25-minute mark, rounded up to the nearest whole minute. That's over half the songs featured in any entire Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. And the longest of those movies is 150 minutes. I swear, this movie was written soundtrack first and story second, instead of, the other way around. Whoever was in charge of the soundtrack on this thing. And since this came out when the first Guardians movie existed. You know what made those movies' needle drops work and yours not? Aside from not turning them into shitty musical numbers? Gunn came up with the story first and then the soundtrack. That way, he could see which songs, out of a pool of hundreds, actually fit the scenes in which he was putting them. He's also claimed in interviews, and I believe him, that many of the songs aren't ones he had a personal connection to. You're just choosing songs because they mention things having to do with love, and assuming they fit just based on that. I shouldn't have to say this, but just because two songs are about love, or any subject, doesn't mean they're about exactly the same topic. Take for example two Cheap Trick songs, The Flame and Wherever Would I Be. The narrator in the former sings of how they still have feelings for the love that's left their life, and the narrator in the latter sings of how the love they get from their partner gives them strength. They're both songs about love, but they're songs about different topics within the subject of love. But what's the use? This is the George Lucas movie we're talking about. Consider everything we've seen so far, barely the quarter-way point of this thing, and also that, again, he's the I don't like sand guy. It's obvious Lucas has a horribly twisted understanding of what love actually is. Anyways, the Mushroom Telephone game has predictable results.
A tall chef is into shark storage.
What?
Okay, you know how we sometimes have a shark, but no place to...
Fail joke, moving on. Bog gets the message of Sonny's arrival directly from the mushrooms and tells us he's evil via another Elvis song, as if he had Dory levels of memory. While in the meantime, Sonny is led by this possum-looking thing the movie calls an imp to Sugar Plum's prison. Gee, I wonder if this character is using Sonny as a pontoon. Yeah, okay, he is. You knew that already. If you guess the story beats before they happen, can we make the movie go faster? Oh, and the Fairy King also gets a scene during all this.
You're a unique girl. And Roland may have a few flaws.
You mean like a few toes of mine I'm about to put up your ass? Anyways, if Alan Cumming and Alfred Molina being wasted on this film wasn't enough, a wild Kristen Chenoweth appears as the Sugar Plum Fairy, who agrees to make the love potion on the condition that Sonny sets her free. Alright, what song are we ruining for this scene? One that another shitty movie already got to. This movie's not even original with the songs it ruins! The Sugar Plum breaks out of her prison with help from Sonny, after which she warns him not to let the imp get his hands on the potion, or else he'll spread it across the forest. See, I told you that you already knew the imp's deal. Anyways, Sugar Plum singing has alerted the Bog King to her and Sonny's presence, and a chase scene ensues, resulting in her getting captured again, and Sonny escaping with the potion in hand, intent on using it at the Elf Festival happening that night. Wait, didn't we already have a scene with a dance? Like, less than 20 minutes ago, the spring ball, remember? Wait, why am I giving George Lucas any credit? This is what he thinks girls like instead of Star Wars. Dances and love and fairies, and all the things My Little Pony was associated with pre-Friendship is Magic. Anyway, Sonny sings Michael Franti and Spearhead's Say Hey I Love You at the Elf Festival, as the Fairy King shows himself to be a misogynistic asshat on top of a clueless moron.
Oh, I wish I had boys.
As he sings, Sonny prepares to drug Dawn, might as well call this what it is, only for the imp and the goblins to catch up with him and foil his plan. In a fight with the imp, he does manage to spill some of the potion onto Dawn, but she gets stuffed into a sack by the goblins before it can take its full effect. Oh, and Bog gets to take the stage to sing Deep Purple's Mistreated. Is this the movie getting back at me for singing the Bob Marley Is This Love earlier instead of the Whitesnake one? Going and urinating on a song by the other David Coverdale-led band? So before he and his minions depart, the Bog King orders the love potion be brought to him by Moondown, or else he will kill Dawn. Always something to do with the celestial bodies. After a brief argument with her father who trusts the guy who cheated on her more than his own daughter, Marianne ventures into the dark forest to save Dawn, butchering another heart song along the way.
There's no way I'm gonna sit this one out.
Neither am I, even though we're not even 50 minutes into this thing and it feels like it's been 500.
Sonny, what? If anything happens to my daughters, I'm holding you personally responsible.
Anything? You mean like Dawn getting kidnapped just now? Which Sonny is responsible for, considering he went with Roland's idea to drug a girl into loving him? broke the love potion's maker out of prison, and then let said potion fall into the hands of someone he was warned to not trust with it? My god! Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to you! Be a good father for once and throw Sonny's ass in prison for trying to pull a Bill Cosby on your daughter! But no. The movie tells us that Sonny is a hero who deserves Dawn, and we're supposed to feel bad for him when this plan of his that no one with a decent sense of morality or intelligence would be on board with goes awry. So he finds someone dumb enough to side with him as he tries to right his unjustifiable wrong by getting the love potion back from the imp. Meanwhile, the Bog King's lair, the love potion finally takes effect when Dawn locks eyes on him, and her rendition of the Four Tops' I Can't Help Myself Sugar Pie Honey Bunch has the goblins doing a good impression of the audience reacting to all these f***ing musical numbers. Yes, yes, please eat her. Anything to stop these awful musical numbers.
I'm a sucker for sweet, pretty singing.
Oh, right. Haven't had a chance to show her yet. Bog King's mother, named Griselda, is also a character in the story, who's trying to set him up with a significant other. And she's voiced by Maya Rudolph, another one of animation's attempts to have her typecast as mothers or mother figures. I don't usually consider typecasting a problem with the movie as much as a problem with a casting department restricting an actor's range. And I'll also admit that if Griselda were at least well written, or the movie as a whole were good, I wouldn't care about this. I did like Big Hero 6 and Luca after all, but this movie is disgusting and crawling with bugs, both literally and figuratively, and Griselda is just as obnoxious as everyone else in this f***ing movie. So even otherwise small problems or trivial details it has, like typecasting, can and do easily get on my nerves. So Bog has Dawn locked away, while in the meantime, Sonny and dumbass sidekick pursue the imp and get subjected to some unfunny Chick-fil-A brand slapstick. Jokes like this are also something we don't bring outside the 1970s. Not that they were ever okay to begin with, but you get what I mean. But homophobia isn't the only thing this movie thinks is funny. But look what shit the imp gets up to spreading the love potion around.
Please! Lawbreaker! Lawbreaker! I got him! I got him! Lawbreaker! Please! Please! Please, man!
Sonny and the sidekick eventually corner the imp by trapping them in the mouth of the lizard from earlier and get them to hand over the potion.
This thing called love, I just can't handle it.
Okay, it's one thing to make a jukebox musical with lousy renditions of the songs you choose, but subjecting Queen to it? Death penalty! And I didn't say death, I said death. As in, you deserve to lose your hearing. Death by Lou Reed's Metal Machine music! If you know, you know. So Sonny goes to Roland and his army to give them the potion, and he goes with him as they march to the Bog King's lair, to which the other love potion affected creatures are also being dragged by the goblins. Oh, and now you're ripping off Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. How dare you? You will never be Tony Hawk's Pro Skater!
I'm coming straight on for you.
No! No! I am not sitting through another butchering of heart! Play something else!
We are the Eee-evil.
Never mind, never mind, never mind! So in the middle of her duel with the Bog King, which they also try to Jack Crash Bandicoot style, I guess 5th gen games are this movie's new favorite thing to ruin, Marianne hears Dawn singing, leading Bog to reveal that she has fallen in love with him. Oh, and trust me, I'm not forgetting to show any of these scenes of Dawn under the love potion effects. I'm omitting them intentionally, partially for my own sanity, but also because there are only so many ways to say this isn't funny and this is annoying. So let me just sum them all up by saying that, like all this movie's other attempts at comedy, these scenes of love-stricken Dawn are unfunny and annoying. Speaking of princesses falling in love with the Bog King though, Griselda has picked up through the non-existent chemistry between him and Marianne that they're falling for each other, and decorates upstairs for them to be alone with each other. The movie decides that their shared hatred of love for how it let them down is a good enough reason to be together though, so it has a scene of them talking about how they're totally not gonna fall in love, even though the audience knows they totally are, before Stuff and Thang brings Sugar Plum in to reveal what the antidote to the love potion is.
The antidote is the one thing more powerful than the potion.
I hate riddles.
So do I. Let's fast forward to when the antidote is...
An army approaches.
Got it! News from the mushrooms and arm skis on roaches.
Again with that stupid gag? Go home and rethink your life. So Sugar Plum eventually decides to spell out what the antidote is by revealing the backstory behind Bog and his hate boner for all things love.
When the Bog King was young and impetuous, fell in love with the sweet young thing.
Oh no. You wouldn't.
He was so in love, but Bog, he had no patience.
Oh god. You're actually going in this direction.
He dusted the sweet, unsuspecting creature as she was gazing into the eyes of a lovesick Bog.
Even with a love potion, I'm too hideous to love.
What the fuck is wrong with you, movie? First you present Sunny as a hero and try to make us sympathize with him and his love potion scheme, and now you're not only trying to do the same thing with Bog, but build a whole villain redemption arc around how its own gross attempt to drug a woman failed? Since this movie has presented an example of just how horrid they can get, can I just say how much I hate villain redemptions in media? Now, heel-face turns are an old trope. Dickens wrote the best known of them, and they go as far back as Christian mythology with Paul the Apostle. Far too often, however, I have seen this trope done badly, even among more famous examples. And animation is a particular offender, either from not giving the character serious enough consequences for their actions, reverting them to their previous personality, or even outright abandoning them after their redemption arc, because why bother show the outcome of their supposed turn, or them being easily forgiven for being selfish enough to nearly bring about the apocalypse. And quite frankly, I'm sick of it popping up. Not only because it's hardly ever done well, but also because villains in real life are hardly ever redeemable, and my country is, at the time of this video, finding that out the hard way. Yeah, sure, that orange guy with a history of racism against blacks, Hispanics, and Asians before and during his presidency, multiple allegations of unspeakable behavior towards women, 34 felony convictions, and 2 impeachments, one for inciting an attempted overthrow of the American government. Yeah, sure, let's give him a second term. What could possibly go wrong? Oh no! Why didn't we lock him up when we had the chance? Villains in real life hardly ever have enough of a conscience to realize the damage they do to the world, let alone are willing enough to put forth the effort to change their ways. The vast majority of them, in fact, are like Donald Trump, irredeemable from the get-go and deride basic empathy and morality as woke and DEI. Give them the slightest bit of room and they'll start knocking down the walls. Or in Trump's case, try to build one that would cost 11 figures a year in taxes, all while doing nothing to stop illegal immigration.
It's estimated that between 27 and 40% of all undocumented immigrants in America came here on planes. And guess what? A border wall's not gonna stop them because, reminder, planes can fly over walls!
If you voted for Trump, you're everything wrong with America. But enough about politics and the colossal embarrassment of the human race that is Trump, back to the colossal embarrassment of the art of animation that is Strange Magic, that has decided its villain should not only be sympathized with for his scheme to drug someone into liking him going wrong, but that he's somehow not a reprehensible individual himself for trying to do something so despicable. Seriously, what the fuck, movie? So as you no doubt figured out by now, since the movie is also terrible at surprising the audience, wait, no it isn't, it's great at surprising the audience, with how bad it can get! The creature Bog tried to drug was already in love with someone else, for the antidote to the love potion is, in fact, true love. But never mind that this critical piece of information in treating Dawn the other imprisoned forest creatures is now known, with Roland and his army fast approaching, it's time for Marianne and Bog to share a romantic moment together, because God forbid this movie's target audience of preteen girls have a pool of interest wider than that of a Flanderized Mabel Pines. Oh, and in case you were wondering when or if the ELO song was gonna appear, here it is. Jeff Lynne is rolling in his grave. And yes, I know he's still alive, that was my point. He found an empty grave, jumped into it, and started rolling around in protest. Anyways, in the middle of their moment together, Buck accuses Marianne of setting him up when he sees Roland and his army at the entrance of his lair, and leaves her stranded in a spider's web. Oh joy, another overdone trope that ought to be discredited. There's only 15 minutes left in the story though, so the movie speeds it along by having Marianne free herself easily and rejoin the Bog King as he fights with Roland. The walls start crumbling just from somebody being knocked into them? You mean to tell me the Bog King built his lair in a structure that can't handle an insect-sized fairy getting knocked into it, and yet he had the love-struck creatures held inside metal cages? If those cages are hit against the walls... For f***'s sake! Idiocracy had less stupid characters in it! In number and stupidity! So the occupants manage to flee the collapsing lair, except for of course the Bog King, who makes a heroic sacrifice by holding the skull entrance up long enough for Marianne and Dodd to make their escape before he goes down with the rubble. As everyone mourns the totally dead for real Bog, Sonny goes to comfort Dawn, breaking the love potion spell in the process.
An elf.
Really? That's what's setting you off your Fairy King. Not the fact that this criminal who drugged your daughter and got her kidnapped has won her over, but the fact he's an elf. That's it. Bend over! Speaking of this movie's morally repugnant so-called heroes, Marianne is unaffected by Roland's attempt to drug her, as she has fallen in love with the Bog King, who survived through the power of the plot demanding he do so. Who am I calling the morally repugnant one here? Both of them. Bog for his own love potion shenanigans and Marianne for excusing them. What I'm saying is, they're about to live horribly ever after, scaring the socks off all who fall afoul of them. Kudos if you get that reference. And the story ends with Bog and Marianne finally admitting their feelings for one another, set to a back-to-back butchering of two 1960s classics. Tell Him by the Exciters, sung by the Forest Creatures to convince Marianne and Bog to admit their feelings for one another, and Wild Thing by the Trogs, sung by Marianne and Bog themselves and presented with trippy psychedelic visuals. And let me just say how fitting they are, because this whole movie has felt like a bad trip on psychedelics. So that was Strange Magic. My gourd, watching this film is such a drag, and it's easy to see why Disney was embarrassed to have been tasked with releasing it. The story is riddled with tired cliches, the characters are all morally bankrupt and idiotic, and the musical numbers are obnoxious, both in how they're performed and how many of them there are. Not even the nice-looking animation, which had more effort and talent behind it than this train wreck deserved, can save it. And again, even on that front, the sets look bland and unoriginal, and the characters look uncanny, reflecting with their ugliness the morality they harbor on the inside. Speaking of ugliness, or visual quality more accurately, Disney's pursuit to bury this film didn't stop with its theatrical run. On home media, Strange Magic received only a DVD release, no Blu-ray or any other kind of HD release, just a DVD. In 2015, long after 1080p had become standard, and with 4K on the way in, for a then-recent film to receive only a DVD release at that point in the history of physical media was almost unheard of, especially from a company as big as Disney. But I will say if any film from them, made or owned, deserved such a treatment, it was this one. The film has appeared before for streaming on Disney+, and at the time of me writing the script to this video, it's still on there. Don't know if that's going to change by the time you watch this video, but it oughta. Because I do not recommend watching this movie through any means, not even ironically. If you're wondering what I'd recommend to watch instead of Strange Magic, well, I'm glad to say that George Lucas, with all his questionable creative ventures, also produced a hidden gem among animated films, 1983's Twice Upon a Time. It's a difficult film to find and watch legally and, like Strange Magic, has only seen physical media releases up to DVD, but I can assure you the effort is worth it. It's infinitely more entertaining, more creative, and more unique than Strange Magic could ever dream to be. Plus, it had a young David Fincher and Henry Selick as part of its crew, and has Garfield's voice actor Lorenzo Music as part of its cast. How could you go wrong? As for Strange Magic, it's a terrible thing to watch. And if it were an evil woman, it'd be Medusa, and turn you to stone. And now it is time for the Phoenix to fly off. Until next time, take care, stay safe, be good to each other, reject Trump's attempts to bring the world down, and have a good one. If you would like to support this channel on a monetary level, then drop a donation at ko-fi.com/AdlerBOG. Monthly donors will get access to exclusive perks, such as donation credits in my videos and early access to completed OTOG chapters. Vielen Dank!
Got it. Tea blend.
Everything about this is bad.